Welcome, everyone, to a new episode of our Conscious Health podcast. And in today's episode, what are we going to talk about, Natasha?
Oh, I think a theme that has been coming up for me and my clients,
What are we
especially
going to
this week, is people pleasing
I think
and the guilt that we feel around people pleasing as well. And I know I've been through it. It's still a theme that's working in my life, and it crops up in different ways and ways that I hadn't really realized. But I think that's something that a lot of us are going through right now in where we're getting to this area of self-love and choosing ourselves. And if we think about where we are in space and time, we're just about to move into a new Chinese year, and we're letting go of a lot of the conditioning that we have that no longer serves us. And I think if we start looking at people pleasing, it is a survival response. If we look at the fight flight, it's actually a fawn response, that we use to, it's really, we create safety through looking for some sort of approval. We avoid conflict. And it's like a subtle stress response because our body sits in that stress area, even if it's unconscious, and we might not even notice it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you suggested the topic because I also have a lot of examples
Mm-hmm.
that have gone throughout this way of being of people pleasing, and what I have seen in terms of the biology of them is that uh, they keep falling apart in small pieces, let's say, in terms of their own health and in terms of their energy, because they keep pleasing the other people, pleasing the multiple areas of their life, and leaving them behind with no time, with no energy, and with the sense that they didn't want to do certain things and
Mm-hmm.
they didn't anyway. So this reflects in their own inflammation process because they are keeping so much of that stress.
Mm.
When you are forced to do something that you don't like, but you are just doing it to so that people can say that you are nice, let's say,
Mm.
well, there is your body is fighting against a response that is already within you. You didn't want to be there. You are forcing yourself to be okay. You are forcing yourself to enjoy certain things that you don't enjoy. And this contradiction in your body is
Mm-hmm.
is raising the stress in very small levels. That's why people don't feel it
Yeah.
at the moment that they are pleasing the others. But after the event or after whatever they did that they
Mm-hmm.
want to do, they feel drained and they don't
Yeah.
have energy and they don't have even thinking a clear thinking process because they are just really let's say disappointed of themselves because they did again what they didn't want to do. So it's a circle that
Yeah. But that's when it becomes conscious, because I think a lot of these traits are very unconscious until you actually start to realize. I think it's a big part of our conditioning. Um, and I wonder if it happens more in women than it does in men, if I now start to think about that as well, because it is very much a survival kind of tactic. I find a lot of my clients, when we do a lot of people pleasing, sometimes it can show up kind of like in the jaw and in the throat, because I find that the jaw usually takes on extra responsibility, or we take on the extra responsibility away from others as well. And that's also another way of, people pleasing. Or we don't speak because we don't want to rock the boat or say something that is wrong, right? So I tend to see that a lot of like sore throat sometimes, like not being able to speak up for yourself or to say no. Thyroid imbalances tend to come in as well with people pleasing as well. I find sometimes the chest and the heart, right? Like shallow breathing that we connected to, or heart palpitations because we don't want to. It's like anxiety sensations, like you say. It's those stresses that come in as well. And then there's the neck and shoulders. So like I'm
Mm.
still trying to move through the space in my shoulder as well. And there's like, it's that chronic tension that we feel in carrying the world on our shoulders more than anything else. And then the other place that I see it is digestive. So IBS syndromes, bloating because keeping everything inside, like you say, like, acid reflux, like it's like
Mm.
one of those things that is connected into to people pleasing as well, right? Or what we say is like either we're holding on to stuff and we don't want to let it go, or we just have a difficulty digesting what is going on in our lives, right? Which was important, but and it's like you say, people feel tired. There's like an immune response that is there, right? Because we're living somebody else's life. Actually, even worse, it's not that we're living somebody else's. We're living what we think their perception or their perspective or their obligation is. Right.
Mhm.
And I think we get to that stage where we forget that we teach people how to treat us, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and all of the symptoms that you narrated and that you have seen in
Mm-hmm.
your clients and that you have perceived through these Akashic records sensing
Mm-hmm.
make uh, match with the science world and with
Mm-hmm.
the biology of each of us,
Yeah.
because let's pick an example, and let's choose an example to depict what is happening in our
Mm-hmm.
body. When we, let's say that I say yes to an event, to a movie that you want to see, and I don't want,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't like the type of movies, because I don't enjoy them, whatever it is the case, but I
Mm-hmm.
say yes. So throughout the movie, I will be thinking, even at the beginning of the movie, that I don't like the topic, or I don't like
Mm-hmm.
the genre, no? And I'm starting to say, well, but I am trying to create a narrative
Yeah.
that justifies that I say yes.
Yeah.
And I will start saying in my mind, well, I did it for Natasha because she loves that kind of movie, and I have to be a good friend, and I have to be kind. If not, it's aggressive, or is something that
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be doing, because what is people going to think, that I'm always
Yeah.
want to do what I want. And all of that narrative starts accumulating in your head, and you start creating a dialogue. So instead of watching the movie, you are just listening to your own voices that
Mm-hmm.
are
Yeah.
arguing inside of you. And that you don't, you start entering into this cycle of anxiety. And
Mm-hmm.
then you add one more component. So the cortisol raises, you start feeling those stomach issues and bloating and the inflammation, because the stomach starts feeling and starts sensing the amount of
Mm-hmm.
cortisol that you already have due to that struggle and that anxiety that you are creating. So, of course, that the level of acid in your body
Yeah.
will start to rise as well. So
Yeah.
as you raise that acid throughout the movie, that probably, let's say it lasts 2 hours, that's two
Yeah.
hours that your body and your stomach is struggling, your mind is still thinking about that. You didn't even pay attention to the movie. So you
Yeah.
were just fighting with yourself. So all of that struggle, all of that inflammation process that is happening within you is suddenly going to lower your immune
Mm-hmm.
system, because your immune system is patrolling your body, and it's
Yeah.
sensing the things and the alarms, and you are raising an alarm without having an accident, let's say, no?
Yeah.
And that's what leads to having throat issues, because at the
Hmm.
end of the movie you want to say something, but you can't say it because you already did what you didn't want to. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. So a big part of it is overthinking. Like you say, it's like sitting in that narrative. I used to do that a lot in one of the jobs that I was in that sense. So I remember I worked for one of the leading internet service providers here in the UK, and I would sometimes wake up at, I remember we used to do 24 hours support, right?
mm,
And I remember calling one of the support guys because I remembered a ticket that I was working on, right? And I couldn't remember if I had actually responded. So I phoned tech support at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, it's not going to make a difference. 3 or 4 hours by the time I get to work, it wouldn't have made any difference had I responded or not. But I had to
mhm,
call them, and I was like, "Hey, can you go and see the latest ticket for this client? Because I don't know what I like if I've done something." And they were like, "Just," they used to call me Nat. They used to go, "Nat, just go to sleep. Like, what are you doing? Why are you calling?" And they're like, "Yes, you've done it." But like that whole narrative and then you're not sleeping, and it just one less issue goes to the next, and like you say, your nervous system gets
mhm,
taxed, right? And it's like, yeah, and yeah, it's very, very interesting from that. It's that fear of disappointing others, whether it's in a work situation, whether it's in a relationship situation, you know and we're constantly self-monitoring and in managing everybody else's emotions. I really didn't realize how, and I think that's part of us all being empathic as well. And last week we spoke about with Jan that amazing conversation we had around smell. And I think a big part of it is we're constantly monitoring people's emotions, and we don't want to rock the boat. We always, like, I don't know, in Portuguese we say you put water in the frying pan so that the frying pan doesn't burn.
mm,
We say põe água na fervura, like it's like, and and that's just not helpful, because like when we're trying to keep the peace, it's like, whose peace are we keeping? Because we're keeping everybody else's peace besides ourselves, right?
mhm.
And sometimes things need to blow up so that they can be healed, so that they can be fixed, right? So it was just like, and I realized that because it's very much, it's a learned response, right? Because my
Mhm.
mom would be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. Just let it go." And then all of a sudden you become and you become a totally different person than what you are, right? Because you're not honoring who you are, and then you wake up one day and you're like, "Who am I? And what do I actually enjoy?" Because we've been living everybody else's dream, or we wake up and we're burnt out, or something happens in our lives to be like, "Hey, hang on a minute, it's time to only take care of you right now." Right? And to give from overflow, because a lot of the times when we are people pleasing, we're giving from empty, not from
Yeah.
overflow.
Yes. And I if I could summarize all of that into one phrase, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
is the nice disguise, no, that people
Mm-hmm.
use. So people put on this disguise of being nice, of looking for that approval, and it's the safety mechanism that is activated
Mm.
because we probably in our childhood stage we witness a lot of arguing or uh, chaos when
Mm.
people said something, or when people let's say had boundaries. So
Mhm.
we learn that saying what we want is associated with creating chaos, with
Yeah.
creating arguments or fights or
Yeah.
discussions. But as you mentioned, when we people please, we aren't being ourselves, and we are losing
No.
the identity of us.
Mhm.
And that's why I think that one of the let's say, end of the line symptoms for this kind of people is that they feel that they are stuck in life
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know what to do because they
Yeah.
don't know where to begin because they don't know who they are anymore. So
Yeah.
finding their way is it's complicated because it's step by step now. You have to create your new persona now.
Yeah. But the thing is, that's what like half of the time you're absolutely 100% right. But a lot of the time we don't even know that we're doing it. A
Hmm.
lot of the time it's part of who we are. But I found the hardest part for me is when I realized that was to then start saying no. And the guilt that comes with that, right? Because you're so used to being that person, right? And it's like the same thing my mom used to say to me. She'd be like, but you're the person who's the glue that keeps everybody together. And I'm like, I don't want to be that person anymore. It's too
Hmm.
stressful. Like it and after doing this work, and it's so interesting because when I checked into the Akashic records, right, because it causes all sorts of stuff. It causes resentment, it causes suppression. We suppress our anger, we have this, like, you know we feel unappreciated, because that's the other thing. We do these things because, one, we feel obligated to do them, and then we feel guilty because we have an expectation, right? So if
Hmm.
somebody doesn't say thank you, then we feel unappreciated or invisible, or so it's a very complex subject to work with, right? But the interesting part of it, when I was working in the Akashic records, is like they say, saying no is like, it's like going to the gym. you know the first time you go, it hurts and it feels like, it's painful, right? It's like your muscles hurt everywhere. But the more you
Yeah.
get used to saying it, the better it becomes, right? The easier it becomes. So,
Hmm.
and it's not saying no for no's sake. Like, yeah, it's such an incredible journey in understanding the why. Because I grew up in a family that didn't argue, even though my parents got divorced. I never heard my dad raise his voice to my mother, not once, not
Mm.
once, or say a bad word. Like, my household was actually quite soft spoken.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and that is also wrong, because I ended up seeing, I went to this, maybe it must have been about 20 years ago. I went to
Mhm.
this talk when I used to work in corporate, and they had this beautiful company that helps um, young women and children that cut themselves and go through all sorts of stuff. And one of the things that I took home, and there were many books that were written, and I'll never forget this. The lady said, "It's okay to argue in front of your children." And I was like, oh, because we're taught not to do that, right? And she said, yes, as long as they see you resolve it afterwards, they know that they can speak their truth. Yes, there is conflict, but you talk your way through it, that it
Mhm.
can be fixed afterwards. So we become afraid, right? Well, at least in my case, it was, where you don't want to rock the boat because you feel that that is it. There's no solution after that. And even
Mhm.
still today, like, I'll find a way that I'm working through working with conflict because of that,
Yeah.
right? So I found
Mhm.
that to be quite interesting in that in
It,
that sense. And then I started speaking up, and then that did cause conflict, and that was like, oh, how am I going to do this? you know?
thank you for sharing that. And I think that what you said before also relates to what happened to you. And I think that it has to do a lot with gender. And women are more prone to people please than men.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, society has created this kind of concept that
Yeah,
we need to be the caregiving person that
yeah.
needs to fulfill multiple roles at the same time and don't say no because you are not a good woman. So
Mm-hmm.
all of those phrases and labels and things that happen in the environment and it's generations. It's so
Yeah, it's, yeah.
ancestral. It's so ancestral that we need to. be also compassionate with
Yeah.
ourselves if we fall into that. And that's why with the subconscious, as you mentioned also, the subconscious is the one that is doing the things and you don't
Yeah.
realize until you hit, let's say, your limit. No, you are like fed up of things and you need to say something. No.
The beautiful thing is that somehow, somewhere, that process kept you safe. Well, once you realize that you're doing it, it doesn't serve you anymore. You're ready to let it go, which is important.
Mhm.
And then the healing begins because then it's like, okay, how do I undo all of this? Right. And my kids were like that. They would be like, Mom, why are you doing this again? And I'd be like, no, because so half the time it actually brings me joy, right? A lot
Mhm.
of the time. But I've started becoming quite conscious in the sense of, do I feel obligated to do this?
Mhm.
Right, that's another thing. So, like, I still visit Canada once a year, and
Mhm.
there were a group of friends that we had, and they're amazing people. But I've been away, and I think when I went last time, I was like, oh, I should go visit this group of friends. But I know that this group of friends, which beautifully have supported my ex-husband. So when I went, I was like, oh, I should meet up with them because there was very much, and it was very amicable, the separation. And I thought it was great because we could keep, friends. And then I thought, wait a minute. I feel there was a stage where I was like trying to meet up with them. And I thought, wait a minute. I was like, I'm feeling obligated to meet up with them. And they're probably feeling obligated because I've asked them. So
Mhm.
both groups are in this situation where we've outgrown each other or we're not the same because I've changed, they've changed, everybody's changed over the last few years. But yet we're holding on to some sort of obligation of connecting with each other. And that's not authentic. That's a people pleasing thing. And it is probably horrible for both sets of people. Not that it was horrible to me because I love people, I love seeing them. But there was a little bit of that. Am I, making them obligated to come and see me? And I don't want that,
Mhm.
kind of a thing. And absolutely, I would love to meet up with them, but not in the sense that I was feeling like I needed to or it would be bad. And then usually when I go, I try and work as hard as I can. Right. So I have just a few people because there's like, I love connecting with my clients. But it was such a beautiful thing to do and kind of like releasing them of that obligation and releasing myself of that obligation. And there's no hard feelings because there's still love there.
Mhm.
Right. But it's amazing how the stacks on top of each other. Right.
Yeah. And this brings me to the reflection that many times this people pleasing journey is reflected in the resentment or of the return of investment. No, as you said,
Mm,
many times keeping the peace externally leads to the waging war that we have internally,
mm,
and we are conflicting with our own thoughts and with our soul and with our motives of being. No, so when we say
yeah.
yes but you mean no, you don't
Yeah.
actually avoid conflict, you are
No.
just burying it until it
Yeah.
turns into resentment, and
Absolutely.
and you start creating this resentment, and that has happened to me in my relationship sometimes, because I think that whenever people try to please me, and many
Mm,
times it has been the other way around, as you mentioned also,
yeah.
as what I was explaining. I don't like when people say yes to everything I say, because I
Hmm.
know that that's not possible.
Yeah.
So I immediately say, well, decide you. Choose the place, choose the movie,
Yeah.
choose the things, and I will, let's say, I will try to adapt and do the things, because I have always asked you and you always tell me yes to whatever I mention. But
Yeah.
that's not real. Let's just call it like that. So you
Yeah.
cannot have a healthy relationship with other people if you don't if you are constantly abandoning yourself.
Yeah, no, you're right. I can only speak from me, but like I'm usually pretty easygoing. I'm
Mm.
pretty easy-go-lucky. So for me, sometimes it's like somebody says suggest that, I'm like, and I'll always try something new as well. So usually I'm like, yep, kind of a thing. So it's gotten to a stage where I'm now I start checking in with my body, and I start checking in. It's like, do I really want to do that? Because a lot of the times I get excited really easily and I want to try new things, right? So I'm like, yeah, let's go and do that. And it's landed me in a bit of trouble sometimes, in the sense that I had a friend of mine that used to love hiking, and being in Canada is the best thing you can do. And it started getting to the stage where they'd be like, "Hey, do you want to go up this mountain?" And I'd be like, "Sure." And I'm not the healthy like I can walk for hours, but elevation, I'm like, hmm. So we walked up this mountain, and it was zigzag all the way up to the top, all the way up to the top, and then we walked all the way down, but I was still had the plate in my leg, which was great because it served its purpose, because I realized that I needed to remove that thing out of my leg. But after that, I started asking, okay, what is the distance and what is the elevation over how much distance after that? And then I'd be able to decide whether I did it or not. There's also that aspect of like pushing yourself out of your own comfort zone,
Mhm.
as well. But I think I've started since learning to check in, and I think it's still a process for me in how people pleasing shows up in different ways. Right.
Mm.
It's still a journey for me in how it shows up. And it's for me, it's still that getting used to saying like no, or you burn yourself once and you're like, okay, I need more information now. When we go hiking, I'm like, I need to know. And even then, it's just so that I can mentally prepare myself for certain things as well, if I choose to do them, right?
Mhm.
Which is important. But yeah, it's quite a journey. Another strange way that it showed up for me is, there's I'm going to get a little bit energetic here. So when I went to India, the girl that I went to go and meet, my client, I mean, we did a lot of training, and then she was so kind to want to show me the best of India, and it was awesome. But she's also very much younger than I am, so she's very good with social media. So and she was a movie director as well. So she was just so she would look ahead of the places to decide, okay, where we were going and what outfits to wear, right? And I don't normally, usually I'm just like, I'll just wear whatever. But she was like, no, I looked ahead and we're going to wear these outfits, and this is the color. And I'm like, okay, you see what I have, you put it like, I don't care. We'll just go. Right. But it started getting quite interesting because she would post a lot of the social media, and then energetically I would get knocked. I don't know if you like, I mean, in many, many kind of like, I suppose you would call it kind of like a psychic attack or evil eye or just that negativity. And sometimes it's not even done on purpose. So the interesting part of it, she said, well, should we stop posting? And I
Mm.
went and I checked in, and they were like, no, that's a way of people pleasing. You've got to live your life, especially if you're expanding out of your comfort zone and you're stepping into a different space of expansion. Some people will want to hold you in the box that you were before because that's what they're comfortable with. And if you stop showing your growth, then that box will always remain, right? And I didn't ever realize that that was a form of people pleasing, right? In
Mhm.
the sense of making yourself smaller so that you
Mm.
keep within what others' expectations of you are, right? I
Oh.
mean, that's just a silly example, but who would have thought that stopping to post online is an aspect of people pleasing? I never saw it from that perspective until like I get connected into the record. So I'm very grateful to see it as that, right?
Well, that story, I think it's gonna bring us to the most important point, I guess, of people pleasing, which is being afraid of showing who you are and
Mm.
and showing your light and showing your full potential. So this, let's say, compression of the energy that you are
Mm-hmm.
designing just to fit your tribe, your family many times, it
Yeah.
keeps you in this comfort zone. It keeps you in this, it's gonna sound aggressive, the word, but there is no other word that I can come up with. It's mediocrity. Is
Yeah.
being mediocre with your life, and is not allowing yourself to be fully who you are,
Yeah.
and showing all your skills and showing all your potential, and showing all that you have gone through also. And
Yeah.
that narrative is just not not careful with anyone and not caring for anyone. It's just making them think that you are that kind of person, and that's not who you are. You are another.
No.
And I remember a movie, once you mentioned all of these examples, that it's an old movie, but it's a very good one. It's Barbara Streisand and it's Jeff Bridges. I even remember the artist because I love that movie and I watch it like 100 times probably.
Yeah.
It's The Mirror Has Two Faces. That's the
Mm.
name of the movie, and it's a teacher that is very intellectual. She's a literature
Mm-hmm.
teacher. She's excellent with her students. She gives her classes, and all of her classes are full. They are even people, students outside listening because she's so good to explain things and to give stories that they love her. But she doesn't care about her appearance. So she
Mm-hmm.
wears glasses, she wears clothes that make her feel just comfortable, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't care for what she eats, and she has a really good friend that she's a little bit chubby, let's say, and
Mm-hmm.
she comforts with her in the food and things. So she meets a teacher in the math department, which is the opposite of her.
Yeah.
He's really bad with the students because he explains maths. He doesn't even look at the students. He's just doing his business in the board,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes care of his appearance. I mean, he dresses well. He's really neat, let's say. Uh, he does a little exercise, and when they meet, they start having issues because they are opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts trying to fit with him and to please
Yeah.
him. And he is a little, well, a lot obsessive, let's say. And he starts asking her to not say yes to everything, to challenge him,
Mm-hmm.
because he
Yeah.
knows that she has other things or other ideas. So she starts discovering that she wants to change, and she
Mm-hmm.
starts doing exercise. She starts caring about her appearance. She starts losing weight and dressing like a beautiful woman, let's say, or a well-dressed
Mm-hmm.
woman. And her students start just asking her, what's happening with you, because you are not you. And she says, why? Because I look pretty, that's why I'm not me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you need to open your mind that we can change and we can
Mm-hmm.
be different, no? And then this guy, this math teacher, is feeling very insecure that she's drawing attention now due to her appearance, because he used to date women that were very, let's say, attractive, no? And
Mm-hmm.
he didn't want that. That's why he chose her.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie reflects a lot of this challenge, because she now is showing who she really is and that she can
Mm-hmm.
change. She can take care of herself, and that is also self love.
Yeah.
But she is creating problems in her own relationships. And
Yeah.
she's telling her students, well, get used to this version because this is now who I am. And
Yeah.
he's also challenging the other teacher because he's also telling him, well, if you date me because you settle with a person that was not going to be attractive, let's say, well, guess what? I am attractive and I can
Mm-hmm.
be attractive and I want now this version and I love now this version of me. And I'm not going to change to the way you fall in love with me if you just fall in love because I was not attractive, let's say.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very complex dilemma, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
because this woman starts feeling isolated with her students. She because they are not used to this attractive image of her, with
Yeah.
his partner because he's threatened by the looks and by the attention that she's drawing, and she's also threatening her friendship with the other woman because she now
Mm-hmm.
eats different. She now eats healthier. So all of that complex, let's say, drama happens because we don't accept that we can be a better version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment that we have to, or we want, or we are trained to comply with the, let's say, lower version, we are just rocking, or let's say, shaking the boat,
Mm.
and we are isolating ourselves. But we are going to find another kind of people in all of our areas of our life. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Maybe I should watch it again. But it's yeah, as I said, there is a lot to unpack there because a lot of the times we look for some kind of conditional love or approval,
Mhm.
right? And everything is a mirror for us, everything. Because a lot of the times when we do end up people pleasing, and the thing is that we actually give sometimes with an expectation,
Yeah.
right? When we do, because either it's gratitude or whatever it is, and when it's not that, it ends up creating that resentment, and we turn around and we go, but that person's so selfish, because I'm doing all of this, because it puts us into victim and into martyr as well. But when we start looking at it from a martyr perspective, they're actually modeling to us what we could be doing, where we need to be selfish, where we need to start creating that aspect of self love. They're actually teaching us to choose ourselves
Mhm.
in that sense. Like he taught her how to choose herself by eating properly and being healthy and all the rest of that, right? So it's quite fascinating in how we unpack, because people mirror to us like what we need to work on, but they also mirror to us what we could be, right?
Mhm.
What we can be doing. And they also, the things that we admire in other people, we admire them because we recognize that frequency. So that is us as well. So that brings me to a very important part, because lately, the way I've been looking at people and going, what aspect of you is me?
Mm.
Like, what aspect of you is me? If we look at it from a grander sense, where we're all one, experiencing itself in this form or in this body, and everybody else is a version, because we magnetize us to each other,
Mhm.
right? So it's almost kind of like looking at each other and going, what aspect of you is me, and what do I need to work through
Yeah.
internally, right?
Yeah.
What are you mirroring to me? That kind of a thing. And yeah, I find it becomes less judgmental and quite curious, and then I think we start having compassion, in understanding that. So yeah, there was last year was a very big year of growth, and I think this year is already going to be one as well. I've been doing all these challenges, actually these 21-day challenges, like bringing in practices with people so that I'm held accountable to it, as well. And it's a beautiful reflection as to who are in the groups and what are we all going through. And there's always in a group, there's always a common thread, which is
Mm.
beautiful. And I'm actually going to be starting doing one on Valentine's Day called, I am love in motion. And that will look at that space of self-love and compassion and understanding, and from a space of a regulated nervous system, because it's all in layers. I think we're all learning in layers, right? It's
Mhm.
it's just like whatever we're ready to let go of, it's mirrored to us, and that's what makes life interesting. I don't know how you find that.
Well, there's a lot to unpack also there.
Yeah.
But I think that the most, let's say, impactful sentence that you said was the layers. And I
Mm-hmm.
also agree with that. I agree that I think that each year we take out a layer out of ourselves, or
Or more.
we put one in. I mean, we take the let's say the toxic one ideally, and we wear the
Mm-hmm.
healthy one. No, at
Yeah.
let's say at the middle of the year or something like that. No, but it's so amazing as you mentioned, because that's also the flavor of life, and that's also the
Mm.
rhythm of life that we should get used to, because life is not going to change for us.
No.
We have to
No.
be adapting to the different kind of curves and ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs and things that we need to work on. And as you mentioned, using people to mirror ourselves, I think is the most, uh, let's say, humble way
Mm-hmm.
of learning. Because when we see ourselves in other people, and when we see our flaws and our,
Mm.
let's say, our qualities and skills in other people, we accept more who we are,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we embrace the journey, and we understand why things happen in that way or until this
Yeah.
moment. No. So
Yeah.
that's when we let go of the weight, let's say. And that happened to me last year, for example, when I started to do these
Mm.
therapy sessions and unpacking the layers within me, and from childhood until, let's say, I'm almost in my adult young years. I realized that I had a lot of things that I already knew and work on, but
Mm.
I fully haven't let them go. I
Yeah.
was holding on to them, or I was just sometimes justifying my behavior from them,
Mm-hmm.
and that was making my journey heavier and more stressful, and also sometimes making me feel stuck. So when
Yeah.
I let all of those layers go and I make my peace with my past and that ancestral journey, I think I felt light, as if I had
Yeah.
lost a lot of weight, let's say. No.
But we hold on to those things because one, they keep us safe, and two, I think a lot of people pleasing is rooted in fear of rejection and abandonment,
Hmm.
right? And the irony is that we abandon ourselves
Yes.
in doing that. So the exact thing that we're afraid of, we're actually doing it to ourselves. If we think about it, we're abandoning our wants, our desires, our needs, like what it is that we're wanting to do as well, right? So yeah, approval becomes safety, but and that's when that self-love is more important, right? Or learning or giving permission, or really this love, the self-love journey is so important as well, because we're so taught to not brag, not don't talk about it. Like if people give us a compliment, we reject it.
or
a
we
lot of
don't
the
be.
times, or we don't accept it. Like it took me a while to start saying thank you,
Mm.
kind of a thing. And it's that again, it's like it's a cycle that we move through, right? So that I think I mean, it is rooted a lot of the times in abandonment. And I think when we're going through something like that, we definitely need to love ourselves more.
Mhm.
It's like the example that they sometimes give in the Akashic records is that, when a plant is withering and dying, you change its environment, you give it more love, not less.
Mhm.
You see, are you watering it too much? Are you watering it not enough? Is it warm enough? Is it cold enough? Is it light enough? Is it dark enough? And you try and place it in a place where it will thrive. And we need to do the same thing with ourselves as well, right? To not abandon ourselves, which I find that so interesting, that we do that as well.
And there is, when you mentioned this abandonment of ourselves, I think you made me remember a course that I did
Mm-hmm.
working to the father wound.
Yeah.
And it was an exercise where you have to visualize yourself as a small child,
Mm.
and trying to talk with that small child and trying to tell him all the things that you would have liked to listen about you from your parents. And that exercise was so painful and
Yeah.
so, let's say, eye opening, that
Mm-hmm.
it made me cry a lot. And now, just remembering, I have these kind of emotions that
Mm-hmm.
are strong, because I think that we have all this small child that is craving for that love and is
Yeah.
craving for that approval. So we have to work first with nurturing that child and with
Yeah.
accepting what he needs and what he wants and what he can be, because it's already within us, and it
Yeah.
probably and many times it had different dreams than the ones that
Yeah.
we fulfill just to comply and just to people please. So
Yeah.
accepting that is going to change you in a way
Yeah.
that you will discover new skills, new ways of doing things, new environments, new people, that you realize and you say, well, I was not aware that I could do that. No?
Yeah. But it's not a weakness. Like when we're
No.
younger, it's survival. It's actually
Yeah.
quite a strength, and we use our intuitive abilities to be able to gauge other people's emotions in order to be able to survive. Right. So I
Mhm.
don't. Yeah. It only becomes a weakness when we don't need it anymore. Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, if we look at it from the inside out, it's like it's actually quite a strength that we needed to survive or to cope or to. And if we look at it from that perspective, yeah, it's our nervous system learning to stay safe in relationships. But if we look at it from a spiritual perspective, we already have contracts with these people. We
Mm.
already have contracts because they help us develop skills in a different way.
Mhm.
Like, how did you, and usually we look at it and go, like, how did that situation work for you? You know, I did it because I think we all have a little bit of everything within us. I think we all have a
Yeah.
little bit of narcissism. We all have a little bit of kind of like saint in us. We all have a little bit of everything within us. It's just where do you dial that so that, where, like, if you were looking at those old radios where you put the volume up and down, like, where is the volume of that emotion, that trait, that specific frequency within us? And we need it at different times.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of that, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
we can. Um, we are getting to the end, to the wrap up
Mm-hmm.
of this topic, because I think this summarizes a lot of things. When we discover that what happened to us in our childhood stage and how we cope with that gave us the skills that
Mm-hmm.
now are giving us the strength, the resilience, the
Yeah.
understanding, and the, let's say, the desire to be more in life. I
Yeah.
think that is making peace with your child, no?
Absolutely.
Making peace with that and making peace with the past that you had because you chose it, no?
Absolutely. You chose those experiences, but it's when they surface, it's understanding that they're ready to be released, because to continue to do the same things
Yeah.
would be a choice. So, for example, we just had a wedding now, and there was a lot of my side of the family that was arriving from all over the world, and it was quite interesting because I was picking up a lot of people. So I didn't have Christmas at my house this year because I was like, it's too much for me. I need a break. So my cousin got married between Christmas and New Year, so we went over to Ireland, and it was quite beautiful in that sense. And I was happy, always happy to help out. But this time was different because somebody was like, "Oh, you're driving around like crazy, like as if it was your wedding." And I was like, so I had to check in with that to say, like, was I people pleasing or was I not? And then I was like, no, I went to go pick people up because I wanted to. Like, I actually wanted to spend time with them. It didn't come in from obligation. It didn't come in from anywhere else. It came in from that I really want to spend time with this person, kind of a thing. I mean, I had a cousin who came in from Hong Kong. I had cousins that were in Australia, so my brother that was coming from London. And even though my brother's in London and we're in the same country, we hardly see each other. But it was like, no, I want to see my nieces and my nephews. And I want to, like, I want to spend time with these
Hmm.
people. So it was quite actually refreshing to do that check in and go, like, did I do it because it's habit, it's muscle memory, or did I do it because? And I was like, no, I did it because I wanted to do it, not because I needed to please anyone, right? And I thought it was quite interesting to do that check in.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that we, I mean, we cannot obsessively do that check-in.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it when we feel the body sensations that we
Mm-hmm.
don't like. And that's when
Yeah.
the wisdom of the body comes in, because
Absolutely.
our body is gonna signal us that we are
Mm-hmm.
doing things that we don't want. So every
Absolutely.
time we are people pleasing, we can just check in with our
Yeah.
bodies, and if our bodies are okay, well, let's go and let's do it
Yeah.
because we really
Yeah.
want to do that. No,
Yeah.
if we
It's
are,
noticing whether your yes makes you feel uncomfortable.
mhm, yeah, exactly. Yes, if it makes you feel guilty, that means that no, that
Yeah.
you should have said no, no. And you learn that
Yeah.
for the next one, no? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You will have plenty of opportunities to reflect on those things.
Actually, there's a process that I downloaded as well for my work. So if it doesn't expand you and it depletes you, it should be a no.
Hmm.
If it isn't part of your passion or your purpose, it should be a no as well. And if it doesn't bring you joy, then it's definitely a no, right? So it makes it easier to filter through those things in that space, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree. And I
yeah,
think that those can be our three lessons that
yeah,
we can give people. Can you repeat them?
absolutely. I can. So if it doesn't bring you joy, it's a no.
Okay.
If it doesn't expand you and it depletes you, it's a no. And if it's not part of your passion or your purpose, then it's also a no as well. Yeah.
Okay. So we have three. We have three
Three.
small
Yeah.
nuggets that you can take away for from this episode, and I think we gave a lot of reflections and a lot of
Mm,
stories and scenarios, real and from some from movies, but still they
yeah,
are real, no, because they happen.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thank you, Natasha, for being open with all of the stories that you gave us.
Thank you, David. Now you all know me a little bit better. I'd like to know all of you a little bit better. And I know you a little bit better now, David, which is awesome as well.
Yeah, that's really nice because we can relate a lot of things with what happened to us in our own lives, no? So
Absolutely.
thank you, everyone. And if we hit home in many of the messages, please just send us a comment and give us your perspective on this topic that is very, very important. And I think it's very popular among us.
Mm-hmm.
So just like our media, like our subscribe to our channels, and give us any kind of topic that you also want to address.
Beautiful.
And we will see
Thank,
you in our next episode.
thank you, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.